some. Okay, so thanks for the intro, David. Today we're going to be going through management efficiency, specifically how the folks on this panel automate day-to-day tasks to make their lives easier. So on the panel, we have Sarah from ZocDoc, Justine from BuzzFeed, and Nicole from Orange Drive IT. So to start, give us a quick introduction about yourself, your organization, and what your organization does.
So I'm Sarah McDowell. I'm at ZocDoc. I've only been there for about 4 months. It feels like a lot longer, in a good way. ZocDoc is in the healthcare industry and was initially created to help solve some of the brokenness in healthcare. So first up, they did online scheduling for doctor's appointments, and they've just continued to build out since then. So we now have things like an insurance checker. You can put in the kind of doctor that you want to see, the insurance that you have, and where you would like to see this doctor. You'll then get a list of doctors come back, and it'll have verified user reviews available. And we're doing heaps of cool stuff in the tech space. So we also do telehealth now. I was sick recently, too sick to go into the city to see a doctor, but I found a doctor through my ZocDoc app. And I did a one-on-one over video chat with a hospital ER GP. She said, come into the hospital. And so my team is over Arizona, New York, and Pune, India. We have 2 separate orgs, IT engineering and IT support.
Yeah, so quick question on that. You mentioned you have IT engineers and IT support. What are the differences between those 2 roles?
They do cross over a lot. They are somewhat separate at ZocDoc right now, which I'm not a huge fan of. Okay. I would like it just to be one team, one dream. The differences is the implementation really for the tools that we use, and the management day-to-day is at a much higher level with the engineers than with support, but it really does cross over a lot.
Right. And your team is international. Does that cause any problems, or?
It makes it tricky. It's the first time I've had an international team. Because we have offices in Arizona, New York, and in India. It's impossible to have all of us in a meeting at the same time. So usually if we have like an all-hands meeting, we'll record it for the India team, and then they can ask me questions after.
Got it.
Yeah.
Justine?
Hello, my name is Justine Biankowski. I work at BuzzFeed, which is a media, news, and entertainment site. I've been there for over 5 years. I'm a senior manager on the IT team. We have about 1,400 full-time employees, and on any day we might work with between 200 and 400 freelancers. So that's kind of a significant challenge for us. We have 18 plus offices worldwide, and we have IT staff in New York, LA, London, and Sydney. We recently did a reorg from an IT team that was just all generalists, and now we've kind of specialized into squads, and those squads are network and infrastructure, video technology, AV, enterprise platforms and security response, and the support team, of course.
Great.
Thank you.
And Nicole?
Everybody, my name is Nicole. I'm the founder and CTO of Orange Drive IT. We are an IT strategy and services company based out of here in Denver. We're what you would call a managed service provider. We're a little unique in that our clients span globally, such as Techstars, to smaller, more local firms. As far as our team is structured, we're a little different just because we're small enough now where we can all be experts in almost all the categories. And we really have to be. When we walk into a client and you're the only one there, they're going to expect you to know it all and know it all well. So at this point, we all work together to make sure that we share our expertise, but we try to make sure that we cover our knowledge of all different areas and categories.
Yeah, and I think that leads well into the next question, which is how does that team structure work with management efficiency and better cloud, and do you have one person focused on automation, or is everybody an expert in automation?
I love this question. So when you asked this, we kind of came together as a team to try to figure out what our answer was because we'd never really defined it before. And what we found is that we're really all involved in automation because we're all on site with different clients who have different needs. So we have what we call an R&E period within our company. It's part of our Agile Scrum, where we list all the things that we think we should automate. We work as a team to prioritize those. We work as a team to accomplish them and test them, and then take them back to our clients to figure out what works and what doesn't.
Got it. Justine?
We also don't have one person that's dedicated to automation, but with the reorg, it has freed up our teams to work on their dedicated project roadmaps for each squad. And our platforms team in particular has been working on a lot of automations to enable the support team to work on a lot of the other things that they need to focus on. Excuse me, I was a little sick last week, so just forgive my throat. We supercharged our onboarding and offboarding by doing a Workday to Okta provisioning. And then we also have workflows set up in Better Cloud. So when a user gets created in Okta, they are automatically provisioned in Google Apps. And based on which office they're in, they get added to groups, they get added to Slack, and so on and so forth. And being able to put the onus on HR to put in full-time employees into Workday so that they get created has really freed us up and made it a lot easier to deal with last-minute new hires or exits.
So we don't have one dedicated person either. I think automation is really the responsibility for everyone on the team and everyone in the company. You don't want to be doing, repetitive tasks, things that can be automated when you could be spending your time working on much more interesting projects. We do have one specialist for our Better Cloud environment who focuses a lot on automation, particularly with onboarding and offboarding workflows. But yeah, really everyone is involved in it from the top down.
Sure. And then you all work in high growth companies. Why has management efficiency become important? Why don't you kick us off, Sarah?
So we are headquartered in New York, which means finding talent and attracting talent to the company can be difficult, particularly in technology roles. So we need to ensure that we have an open environment where people are free to use the tools that they want to, but it's a balancing act between that and security, maintaining security in our environment. So we need to have tools in place which are robust, which are configurable, which work with our other products in the environment, and just making sure that it's a nice place to work for everyone.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, just to echo that, BuzzFeed is a very open environment, as you might imagine. We kind of believe in enabling our end users to choose the tools that work for them to make sure that they're the most efficient at their jobs as they can be. But that poses a lot of challenges for IT. Figuring out how to look at it all from a security perspective takes a lot of time and effort when there's 4 different shared file systems that people use. You also have to be ready to adapt and switch gears, especially at our company, but I'm sure this rings true for everyone. Inevitably, your team will have to adapt and pivot, and the more management efficient you are, the easier it will be to deal with these obstacles.
So I have a question for all of you based off of what Justine just said. You totally set me up. I really appreciate that. It's almost like we knew what was coming, right? It's almost like we rehearsed this. I'm not sure. Question for all of you guys. She mentioned, 4 file sharing tools. Raise your hand if your company uses, let's say, more than 3 project management tools that you know of. Keep your hand up if you think it's more than 4. Keep your hand up if you don't really know how many, but you're sure there's more than 4. Yeah. High growth companies, that's what you're going to get, right? We're creating these cultures where we're allowing end users to be administrators, we're allowing end users to pick the SaaS tools they want, and eventually that becomes a nightmare from a security and IT perspective. One of our clients recently had us do a giant audit of all of their SaaS subscriptions. We use Better Cloud, we use a tool called Alpine.io, we use Jump Cloud, and out of a company of about 250 full-time employees and over 400 globally, they were using 209 SaaS subscriptions and paying over $750,000 a year combined. I think that's a perfect example of if management efficiency would have been in place in the beginning, we wouldn't have had to first do the audit and second start to remove tools from users, which is a really hard thing when you're trying to create a culture of openness. So.
Sure. Yeah, and I think this leads into a good question that came up in the fireside chat with with Jay and Dave, which is how do you deal with shadow IT in your environments?
So recently I came across something that maybe everyone else already knows, but I was excited. If you have tools that are out there, this doesn't work for free tools, but if you have tools that are out there, someone has to pay for them. Whether your users are paying for them and then requesting the money back from the company, or whether they're going through the correct channels and getting it invoiced and having it go through vendor management. If you get really involved with the finances for whichever team you're managing, or work closely with finance if you're not managing a team, you will have your finger on the pulse for what is out there, because it has to be paid for.
That's a good point.
So that's a good starting point to then
like
be
it.
able to go and fix any issues that you see coming up.
Justin, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, definitely. I'm really good friends with my legal and finance teams because I find that even if someone doesn't come to IT and says, hey, we're looking at this tool, can you vet it for us? They've definitely at least spoken with either legal or finance. So having those teams in my corner, they can kind of give me a heads up on if someone's rolling out something new. And we also recently set up something called a vendor security assessment questionnaire. If you Google VSAQ, it'll come up on GitHub. But basically, it's a site vendor questionnaire that we can send to different teams, and we've sort of been socializing it with all the different departments so that they can then send it to their vendors, and it sets us up so that we already know, do they support SSO, what kind of encryption do they support, and it puts us in a better place.
Shadow IT is an interesting thing from a cultural standpoint. I think often IT, we're so much in the backgrounds, right? We're the people in the locked closet most of the time. So when we try to implement anything related to security, it can feel a little bit like Big Brother. It can feel like we're taking things away. I think there's a lot that we can do as IT teams to make it not feel like shadow IT at all. I think a lot of that is hosting lunch and learns, getting in front of people and teaching them things to geek out together with. A great example is I used to work at a company, and every time Apple would do a keynote, we would make sure it was set up in the cafeteria and hosted by IT because we wanted people to have fun with us. And it pulls us out of the closet and puts us in an environment where people feel more comfortable to talk to us about their problems. All of a sudden we become psychologists, but then when we actually need to push through security changes, it doesn't feel like shadow IT anymore. It feels like we're doing something that's going to help them.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, moving on. When you were choosing a toolbox for managing your environment, how did you come to choosing those tools? What was important to you, whether it's Better Cloud or any other tools in your toolbox?
So in general, it has to be something that integrates with our existing environment, particularly with our SaaS tools. Something that can offer the security, like multi-factor and SSO, obviously really big ones that we need as a company. I'm in a heavily regulated industry in healthcare, and I've come from a finance background, so those things are super important to us. When we chose Better Cloud at my previous company, it was because we had so much issue with the Google admin panel. It's definitely improved, but it's still a bit clunky to use. It's powerful, but it's certainly not Better Cloud. At the current company that I'm at, I wasn't part of that decision because I'm fairly new there, but they purchased it for one particular feature, which was contact management. And while it's very good at contact management, there's a lot of other cool stuff you can do in there, and we're kind of building that out now.
Great.
Yeah, so I've been using Better Cloud / Flash Panel for a really long time. Yeah, for the OGs. We needed a tool to update groups in a bulk fashion. We were moving to Google Groups for Business. We wanted to make sure that all these groups were only viewable to the members of the groups. And the only tool I could really find that could do that for me in an easy way was Flash Panel. And I stuck with it because they listen to me. I give them feedback on different features. They make it super easy to sit down with product owners, and I really appreciate that in a vendor because I feel like that's kind of rare. Other than Better Cloud, all of the tools that we've chosen for our environment were chosen for scalability, usability, cost, and integration with our other tools, for sure. Some examples of those are Jamf, AirWatch, Okta, Duo, FoxPass. I'm sure these all sound familiar to everyone. And we've been trying to, if there's no good paid option, trying to build stuff in-house. So something we've done there is working with OS Query.
Management efficiency toolbox. Well, Better Cloud was kind of a shoo-in decision for us. We were familiar with Flash Panel already. And when we started kind of examining what kind of toolbox we wanted to be able to present to our clients, in the same way that you present to your different departments, right? You have to have buy-in from legal and from finance and from people ops or HR. And so Better Cloud, for us, the first thing we started looking at was what can it do security-wise? Because a lot of times when you have key decision makers, you show them a security vulnerability and they go fix it. You're like, well, then let me buy this tool right now, or I can. So that was what we started with. We're like, well, what can Better Cloud do security-wise? Because we can make sure that all of our clients feel safe if they have that tool in place. And so we kind of started showing them how many public Google Docs have confidential data in them, how many are exposed. Those numbers scared the shit out of people. So we implemented Better Cloud, and then all of a sudden we went to people ops and we said, well, hey, you can also onboard and offboard using Better Cloud, and you can automate that. And they went, this is great. It's by far the #1 management efficiency tool, and they didn't pay me to say that, I swear. Other than that, we've been big fans of Jump Cloud over the last few months. They're a rather new company in Boulder that are doing an SSO RMM sort of combination. Jamf is obviously always in that list. And I think we're kind of in a fun place because we get to use tools that are fairly new because so many of our clients are so small. So if you have a small little tech company, it's almost like we get to guinea pig with them. So there's a lot of smaller things that we use as well.
Great. So obviously loads of experience on this panel. It would be great if everyone in the audience could walk away with one piece of advice or one tactical thing to help them with management efficiency. Justine, why don't you start us off? Do you have any tips?
Yeah, sure. So I think we often forget how important it is to have a roadmap and prioritizing it and then relentlessly reprioritizing it. So what our team has done, just based on how much change there is in our business and changes in stakeholder asks, we've been reprioritizing our roadmap every month. So the way that we reprioritize it is based on conversations with stakeholders that I or other people on my team have, as well as just what is our team bandwidth? How many people do we have this month that can work on something? Is someone out on vacation? I know it doesn't sound exciting, but it gives you better planning, and just knowing what your commitments are huge. Setting stakeholder expectations and making sure that your team can access the roadmap and give you feedback on it is also really important.
No, to what she said. No, really, I think that's a great answer. If I could say #1 thing is automate the things that frustrate you the most first. Take care of your team internally. The security stuff's great to show off to legal and to the rest of the company, but take care of the small things that you find yourselves just hitting your head against the wall on, because it creates a little bit of momentum within the team, especially when it comes to automation. Automate the things that you want to see, and that way you can really build on that.
Sure.
So I find that often we will have a problem or a use case in our environment and go out and grab a tool that is going to fix that. I think that we need to spend more time planning and figuring out the process for what we need to do before we pick a tool and then just try and shove that process into it, or that half-done process. So spending that time at the start pays off so much later down the track in terms of technical debt, in terms of picking the right tool in the first place.
Yeah. Okay, and then last, super Better Cloud specific question. What are some use cases or tools that you use in Better Cloud to become more efficient that you'd recommend everyone else use? You want to start us off?
So I had to think about this, and it actually came to me when I was listening to the other speakers this morning. I think that Better Cloud is seen as really just an IT tool. Now, you're already paying for licenses for everyone in the company. Why not give more people access to it? So set up roles within Better Cloud. Give your security team, and some of you might be doing this already, but maybe think broader. Give your security team access to have a look at audit reports. But further than that, go to HR, see what data they could be using out of there. There's a lot of great data in there, and it spans the whole company. Why not use it?
Of course.
So obviously, number one time saver for us is the onboarding, offboarding workflows we've built out, just with full-time employees being put into Workday, being provisioned in Okta, and then being provisioned in Google Apps, and vice versa for deprovisioning. And we're actually taking it a step further by doing a workflow that it waits 90 days, and then it'll delete the Google Apps account. We have a workflow that shoots people over to Backupify if they're in a certain OU, because we have an OU in Backupify that it's set to sync that one. And then we'll have a backup, we'll have an open license, it's done automatically, it's easy peasy, it's amazing, I love it.
Was paid to say that, however. Being an IT service provider, our number one goal is to be proactive. We want to catch problems before they happen. And so for Better Cloud, the way we use it as Orange Drive IT is we make sure that we have triggers that send alerts to users, but then also create tickets on our end to follow up. And that way we're able to show, hey, this tool caught this before the user did, or before the security team did, or before our quarterly audit did, and we were able to follow up with it and make sure it was taken care of before anything terrible happened.
All great use cases. Thank you for sharing them.
Thanks, Mike.
Of course. All right, I'd like to open it up to the audience. Does anyone have any questions for the panel?
Hello? Oh, it's on. So I think we can all agree here that I think at the end of the day, we're all IT counselors, right? I've had people literally come into me like in tears with all of their IT issues. And it's like a really bad soap opera, right? Because you're trying to like calm them down. Everything, is gonna be okay. I'm here for you. Give me a hug. This is weird. HR comes down. And it becomes very, very sketchy. So one of the biggest questions I get from talking to a lot of people in the industry are ways to improve our workflow efficiency. So what would you say is your top 3 ways to improve workflow efficiency?
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yes.
Workflow efficiency, you kind of gave the example of somebody coming down to your office and they obviously interrupted your workflow.
Yes.
Okay, so workflow efficiency meaning how you get more done when you're constantly interrupted?
Absolutely.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, I was what does it have to do with crying? Maybe a lot.
This is one of my all-time favorite topics, actually, because no matter what we do, it's never going to be 100%. It's never going to be perfect. There's a lot of small things depending on the size of your team, but let's pretend you're a small team of 1 or 2, which probably a lot of us are. There's set office hours, which will help. I mean, logistically, it's IT can't be available 24 hours, 7 days a week. You can bring your problems to us afternoon, between noon and 5. Obviously, there's going to be urgent use cases. But I honestly think the best way, if you have an operational role, you're going to have an interruptive-driven workflow, is just learn how to deal with those interrupters and say the things that are going to make them hurry it up. And also not being ashamed to say, I'm really sorry you're having that issue right now. I'm unfortunately putting out this fire. Is there any way we can schedule a time for you to come back? I see you're really upset. I promise I'll follow up with you. I mean, there is a limit where we just have to say, I really have to focus in on this. Please politely go away. I see it as kind of breeds of dogs. You have the Labrador that's constantly interrupting you, and they just they're super fun and they're super playful, and you want to just pet it, you don't want to push it away, but you kind of have to teach it that it can't just come up and interrupt you every 30 seconds. Then you have the Chihuahuas who are always yipping at you and always complaining about something. You interact with that a completely different way, right? So see your interrupters as breeds of dogs. That might help you.
Just to add
I also
to that,
love dogs, so that's perfect.
Me too.
Just to add to that, I think stepping back from that, if you have a really good self-service option in place, and it doesn't work for every case, sometimes there's emergencies, people get locked out, but if you have really good self-service available to users and they like using it, then that kind of prevents a lot of the walk-ups and a lot of the emergency situations.
You have a self-service tool you recommend?
So Jamf is fantastic. They have an out-of-box thing you can configure for self-service, but it's only for Mac. Case, which we use for asset management, also has something which can be used for both platforms.
Thank you.
So we touched on a little bit about sort of IT and HR. I'd love for some just like tactical advice on how you've worked to improve those relationships with HR. Like, it sounds to like a lot of focus has been on automation, and obviously onboarding and offboarding is a big part of that, and HR is involved. So any tactical advice on either strengthening those relationships or working with them in a way to improve efficiency for those processes, I think would be great.
So HR really, like the end goal I find for a tech relationship or IT relationship with HR should be for them to be your source of truth for your user base. You can have all these tools in place, but if you don't have like a really solid universal directory source of truth, then it's just going to end up messy. So you need to build that relationship with them. You need to work together with whatever HRIS system they're using or not using, and make sure that your IT systems are integrating very closely with that.
I think it's great to start a conversation with HR almost every time with, what can I do for you? What are you having trouble with today? Is it your Google onboarding process? Is it something as simple as your team just needs to learn how to use Google Drive better? Asking that question, because that's what HR does. They take care of people's problems every day. So it's a language they speak. What problems are you having? How can I fix? Can I just spend a few hours shadowing your team just to see what your workflow is like so that I can make your life easier, make it better? I have found in the last 10 years of IT that HR is often sometimes the last to speak up when they're having problems. Maybe that's because they're used to dealing with other people's problems, so they don't want to complain. But by starting that conversation of, what can I do? What's causing you to beat your head against a wall? Is often a great way to get them to start opening up and trusting you. And is, of course, having that follow through as well. Setting expectations of, I hear you, I think I have a fix for that. Let's get together next week and I'll show you a few ideas. Is often super helpful.
I agree. Definitely don't underestimate the power of just sitting down with someone in a room or doing a video conference if you need to. Just hearing people out and hearing what they're struggling with will put them in your corner.
Yeah, just curious, Justine, you mentioned you're using OS Query. Just excited to hear that and curious to know what insights you've gleaned.
So far, so good. Knocking on whatever wood is around me. But yeah, we've just started rolling it out to our whole fleet. So I'm really excited actually to see what kind of information we get back from it. So I would be happy to connect later and tell you in like 3 weeks what new fun things we've found.
Great, thank you so much, guys.